Hello, and welcome back to Elden Ring. This is part 4 of our intelligence run through the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Last time, we went through Bellerot Jail, we went through Dragon's Pit, we went through Cerulean Coast, Charo's Hidden Grave, and finally Lamenter's Jail. And in that part, we got ourselves the ability to craft hefty freezing pots. We got the Great Jar, Demi-Human Swordsman Yosh, the ability to craft hefty rock pots, the ability to purchase toxic and white flesh mushrooms. We got the Lightning Perfume Bottle. We got the Spirit Sword, the Star-Lined Sword, a Great Grave Glowwort, an Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone, the Dragon Hunter's Great Katana, the ability to craft Dragon Communion Grease and Harpoons. We got Rings of Spectral Light, the Spirit Glaive, Prattling Pate Lamentation, Chilling Perfume Bottle, Clarifying Horn Charm +2. We got 3 or 4 hefty cracked pots. We got the Lamenting Visage, and Lamenter's Mask. And as you can probably see, we upgraded and equipped the Chilling Perfumed Bottle. I added to +24 instead of +25, just because +25 requires you to use Ancient Dragon Smithing Stones, which I have plenty of those, but not everyone does, so this will show you how much damage you'll have at 80 intelligence and the bare minimum dexterity of 13 without using Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone. So you can see the damage there. And we also replaced Mimic here with Demi-Human Swordsman Yosh because they use a magic sword. This is a magic build, so I thought it fit. But here we are in Skadu Eltis, and we can talk to Letta.
Hello again. Did you meet my compatriots? They're quite the congregation, from places as far and wide as you can imagine. Doubtless they'd have all come to blows at first glance, were it not for the charm kindly Mikula put upon us. This is what allows us to serve together, the work of a living god. Wondering about the horn scent, are you? True enough. In any other circumstance, he'd be at our throats. Long ago, Queen Marika commanded Sir Messmer to purge the Tower folk, a cleansing by fire. It's no wonder the horn scent holds the Erdtree in contempt. That aside, man is by nature a creature of conquest, and in this regard, the Tower folk are no different. They were never saints. They just happened to be on the losing side of a war, but it's still a wretched shame.
And there's also a horn scent over here, so we can talk to him again.
You have a knack for timing, my fellow. I found the site of a new cross. Take this. Mikula has said as much himself. He wishes now to throw it all away. He says the act, though undoubtedly painful, will sear clean the Erdtree's wanton sin. The truth of his claim can be found at each cross. It is evident enough to earn my belief. Go to the misshapen tree of Umbra. In that forsaken place, blood must spill. The blood of your fellows, the Erdtree faithful.
So he wants us to go over there. And if we go there right away, or rather whenever we decide to go there, that will break the spell, like Mikula's charm. And that's not something I want to do right away, because there's some dialogue that I want to show off. And you can't do that if the spell is broken. And that dialogue is actually why I'm here in Scadueltus. Not down here. I just figured this is like the first thing I always do when making it to Scadueltus. So, since I'm here, that's what I'm doing. Oh. And that's why I normally break those. Alright, so... you might think that a 3-shot is bad, and a 4-shot against those soldiers is bad. And... I mean... kinda. But also, this scales off intelligence and dexterity, and my dexterity is only 13. So, there's that. There's also the fact that it only weighs 1, and does pure magic damage, so the damage isn't split. I'm not saying these things are great, but... the range isn't bad. The speed isn't bad. It's got serviceable scaling with 2 different stats. It's got a damage stat that isn't physical and isn't split. And it's lightweight. And I think that's pretty good. So... yeah, I do think that they're kind of similar to whips, in the sense that they make a good secondary option. Like, they're a good offhand weapon, basically. Not something I'd use as my main weapon. But if I have a free hand... and I have the upgrade materials, why not? Blessed Bone Shard. Yep. I still haven't found a super consistent way to tell what purple actually means. Hello. But crafting materials are usually purple. Not always, at least to my knowledge, but usually. At the very least, the exceedingly rare to find ones are purple. So, like, Blessed Bone Shards... Furnace Visage. If you don't know, you can actually grind Furnace Visages up by Shadowkeep. Like, from Shadowkeep, if you go down the elevator and out to the left, which is off to the east, there's like a broken Furnace Visage, and there's some common soldiers. Yeah, those common soldiers can drop it. And I think that's kind of nice. Also, could be wrong, but I don't think you can get that. I didn't think it would reach that far. Unfortunately. I always forget that they can do that. Where they can, like, guard counter and then just tank a hit. They can't tank everything, but they can tank most things. And also, yeah, highly recommend having Renala's full moon, because this thing, it's a sniper. So incantations have the item over there isn't worth getting. It's a cookbook. Don't remember for what specifically, but I remember it's not worth it. But incantations have Frenzied Burst, which is... it shoots like a straight line, and it goes pretty far. And that's like the incantation sniper. This is the sorcery sniper. Good damage, good range. Do recommend. Yeah. As long as their shield isn't up, you can just keep spamming this. But if their shield is up, then... oh. But yeah, if their shield is up, you need to be ready to dodge at any moment. And yeah, if you go here to the Church of Consolation and you kill the Black Knight there, you guaranteed get their Great Hammer. And then there's a Twin Blade one up here. Like, if you start here, head north to Shadow Keep, but then take a left and head off west and up the hill, there'll be a Twin Blade one there, and killing them guarantees you the Twin Blade, whereas this one guarantees you the Great Shield. Kinda glad that you're guaranteed to get those, so that way you don't have to grind them. But then the armor set you have to grind, and they use an incantation there where they stick out the frog tongue and grab you, but I don't think you can get that. Unless it's like the weapon skill for the Great Hammer, but it's not because it's Endure. Or unless it's the weapon skill for the Great Shield, but it's not because that's Shield Bash. At this point, I have looked a few things up, mostly just to confirm things that I thought. Don't think I've looked up the magic yet, though. Or at least the incantations. I might have looked up the sorceries. Might have. But yeah, from there, you can run over here and this brings you back here. So if you go over there and to the right, that leads you to Fog Rift Catacombs. So there's that. And I have not done it myself, but an interesting challenge to try would be either to not teleport or to limit your teleportations. Which there are some areas where you need to teleport. Like, for example, in the base game, once you make it to, like, the Halig Tree, you're not getting out of there unless you teleport. And then there are some other things, like, underground. In order to get to Mogwin Palace, you need to take a teleporter. But what I'm talking about is this, like, the traveling. And I think it would be interesting to do a challenge where you can only teleport to Sites of Grace a certain number of times. That includes the Round Table Hold. So, just a quick number to throw out there, let's say 15. So you get 15 teleports. Heading to the Round Table Hold, you need to teleport there and then teleport back. So that would be 2. So you'd really want to limit that. I think that would be an interesting challenge. Might do that sometime. I'm going to finish up this run and the other May the Best Win. But gonna finish up these 2 runs before trying anything. And yeah, he's a lot like the other base game NPC fights where he will animation read dodge. He didn't really do it there because Ajula's Moonblade. So, in case you don't know, when you raise your staff up to use Ajula's Moonblade, they don't dodge during that. I can show you here. They don't dodge during this. They dodge during the swing itself. Grow not complacent. Continue to tamper your strength. Dryleaf Arts and Dane's Hat. And that comes with Palm Blast. But yeah, when enemies have animation raiders, they don't dodge when you raise your weapon up. They dodge when you do the swing itself. And something you may notice, if you try to use Ajula's Moonblade, is that if the enemy is at, like, this light pole here, if you swing here, they'll dodge every time. But if you swing like this, they very rarely dodge. And I think it's just because they don't have time to dodge when you get that close up. Hello. And then basic soldiers don't dodge at all. So they're easy kills. That cookbook gets you the ability to craft a mesmer fire grease, which is more potent than normal fire grease, but I don't think it lasts as long, and you need Ember of Mesmer. There's a handful on this path, so good to grab those whenever you're running through. At least if you're someone who does item crafting. We're gonna ignore them. There's a thing we missed right here. Repeating crossbow, that's the one. Repeating crossbow, I haven't used it much because I don't use bows or crossbows much. I do tend to defend them, but I don't really use them. But that is one of the best crossbows, because the normal fire shoots one single crossbow, or one single bolt. So, not wasteful at all, unlike the sprint crossbow. But then the weapon skill allows you to fire, I believe it's 12 bolts at once. Kind of like Gale's crossbow from Dark Souls 3. Also, whenever this pops up, you might be able to see it, my mouse cursor. Yeah, you can't look around when those things pop up, those notifications. You can look around on controller, but not mouse and keyboard. And that was something I found out in a way that I should not have found out. It was not a good thing, because I almost ran off the cliff the first time I realized it. Because I kind of went in with the expectation that you can look around. But no, you cannot. Also, remember, those things... People say that they're annoying and can be difficult and a bit cheesy. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If something is difficult on a melee build, it's easy with a magic build. And then if something is easy with a melee build, it's difficult with a magic build. Not always, but typically. And even if you don't one-shot it with the moon, you can still shoot them with Great Glintstone Shard. Which, fun little fact, if you hit them with this, when they're flying, it actually knocks them down. And so, if they're flying, you don't want to shoot twice, because the first one will hit and knock them down, but them getting knocked down will make the second one miss. So, just keep that in mind. But here, Skidoo Tree Fragment, and here, I abandoned here my eye. This is one of the ones the characters don't know about. And that's actually why I came here. Because I wanted to grab that. And in case you don't know, if you get all the ones that the characters don't know about before breaking the charm, you'll actually get unique dialogue from Ansbach. Which, I think each one gets you unique dialogue, but once you get all of them on a single character, then you get even more unique dialogue that isn't specific to any single one. And also, if you kill these guys, you get some Shadow Realm runes. Which is nice. Both of them drop Shadow Realm runes, as you can see there. Which, broken runes only give 500, but they give you like 4 or 5. But then 10,000, 12.5, 7.5, 15. Like, they give you a good chunk of runes. And I appreciate that. Something you may notice... I'll take more runes. Something you may notice is that I have a bunch of runes, but I don't really pop them. And that's partially because I don't feel the need to level up. I tend to keep them, and then if I'm about to head into a boss, but I'm like 4k away on a level, then I'll pop some, because I'd rather not go into a boss almost having enough for a level. But then sometimes ow. Anyways, the other reason is that I like to do co-op. And if I'm doing co-op and I like whoever I'm helping, that could be that I like their armor set, or I like the weapon that they use. For example, one of the biggest ones is the Icon Shield, which I don't have on me, but Icon Shield, it gives you passive health regen, and I love health regens. Or passive regens in general, that's part of why I blessed blue. I could definitely have stronger things, like Pearl Drake, or Crimson Amber Medallion, or Cerulean Amber Medallion, or I could have like Radigan Icon, Primal Glintstone. You know, there are options. There are plenty of better talismans. But I have a big soft spot for passive regens, even if they're not the strongest. So 7 Smithing Stone 5s and 8 Smithing Stone 6. Absolutely love that. But I have a big soft spot for passive regens. So if I see someone running the Icon Shield, which has that passive regen, then I always love to see that, and I'll drop them some runes. Or if someone's just doing good, or using a weapon I don't see a lot, or a light armor set, like this one, the Errant Sorcerer set, one of my favorites. These sets that are more about looking good rather than having good defense. Love seeing when people do that. Or just in general, if someone is doing a really good job and I like them, then I'll drop them some runes. I'll go, hey, you're doing a great job. Have 3 Shadow Realm Rune 4s. And that's just something that I do. Although people tend to move along, and so you can't just drop it at any time. You tend to need to wait until they're like rummaging through their inventory because they got poisoned or something. Or if someone is talking to an NPC, that's a pretty big one. Talking... Dark Souls 2 enemy. But someone talking to an NPC is typically when I drop runes. Because I know that they're gonna be there for a minute. Ow. Like, at the time of recording, I have Occultation. And here, Golden America's Rune, which gives, I think, 80k? Yep, 80,000 runes. Very nice. But as I said, at the time of recording, which is probably going to be a decent distance away from the time of uploading, because at the time of recording, I'm just about done uploading the Dexterity run, and I want to drop a different run, or like a run from a different game, before starting to upload this run. Partially because I'm only 4 parts in on this run, and partially because variety. But at the time of recording, just a few days ago, I actually helped someone go through the Shadow Keep. And they were talking to Ansbach, and whew, when you're not actually the person talking to Ansbach, he takes forever. Or maybe they were just standing there for a bit. But they talked to Ansbach. I knew that was going to take a bit, so I dropped him some runes. And then we went back and talked to Ansbach again. So I dropped him some runes again. After he'd gotten the secret right scroll. And wrong flask. That is such a cool attack. I've said that as a bad thing before. The whole people jumping into the air and then just like staying in the air for way too long. But he didn't really stay in the air that long at all. He just jumped really high. So, I'll give it a pass. But aspects of the Crucible wings. So I found out that if you put it on a polearm, I don't know what a polearm is actually, now that I think about it. But if you put it on a twin blade, it spins. But if you put it on a halberd or a spear, then it actually, instead of spinning around, you just go straight forward with a poke attack. And in the very beginning, like in the initial run when I saw that, I wasn't a big fan of this. I went, oh, that's neat. I can see why some people would like this, but I personally will never like this because of the spin. Because let's say an enemy is right here, you'll use it, you'll spin, you'll hit them once, and then you'll just keep going. But you won't push the enemy with you, and so you'll never get good damage out of it. But once I learned that you can put it on halberds and spears, and it just does a single poke attack, since I've learned that, I like it significantly more. So, yeah, that's something that you may not know. But it actually has 2 different attack animations depending on the weapon and weapon class. So, that's nice. Anyways, Letta.
We are all utterly captivated by kindly Mikula. It is what binds us together. Oh, that man is known as Dane. He's been in the service of Mikula the Kind longer than I. He might be solemn of cheer, but is a fierce warrior nevertheless. There's no cause for concern. Dane's reluctance to speak to you is no fault of your own. We've been acquainted for quite some time, but even I am yet to hear his voice. Perhaps one day.
Okay. So you can ask her about Hornsent, you can ask her about Dane. I don't think you can ask her about anyone else. But I don't think I've ever shown that dialogue, at least in these runs so far. Because in the first run I completely missed that, and in the second run, like the second run that I did but didn't record, I learned about that. And then in the third run I showed it off, the Dex run. Showed it off, but I don't think I came back to Letta to talk to her about it. So that's some new dialogue for you. Now, we're at 39 minutes. My next stop was going to be Bellerot, but I don't think that's a good idea because of the time. So this is left hand 2, and it goes with intelligence and dex. So left hand 2, we get 3 damage and then another 2 damage. So we could level up the damage, but we could also level up health, we could also level up mind, we could also level up endurance. And I want to level up endurance because 25 is not a lot. Kinda surprised I was able to get as far as I did with 25 endurance, actually. Because, I mean, since I'm in the DLC, obviously I beat Moog, and I beat Elden Beast, Elden Remembrance. Oh, beat Elden Beast. Not. Skidoo Tree Fragment? I was about to say, I'm not sure how, but I know how. It was just stamina management. But I don't think I've ever beaten the game with 25 endurance before. A weird Spirit Ash. Because I typically get to either 40, 45, or 50. I usually do 45. And so, this run, I was going with 20 less endurance than I typically run with. Which is a big drop. Now, don't get me wrong, that's because I have 80 intelligence. And I typically stop at either 54 or 60. There's some blessed bone shards around here. So I wanted to run around and get a few of those. But yeah, in case you don't know, with strength, whenever you two-hand a weapon, whatever your strength stat is, you get 50% more. So right now I'm at 16. So if I were to two-hand my weapon, it would go to, I would gain 8. So it'd be as if I have 24 strength. And since there's a massive fall off after 80, you don't want to bring your strength too high if you're someone who two-hands. And I did the math. 54 strength actually gets you to 80. So if you go into a calculator and you do 54 plus 50% or 54 times 1.5, because both of those work, pretty sure. Pretty sure. But doing that, it'll bring you to 80. And so, if you're someone who two-hands, you don't want to go above 54 strength, because that'll put you at exactly 80. And then from that point on, you'll be getting massively diminished returns. And so from that point on, it'd be a lot better to put your stats elsewhere. Grey bird anklets. And then over here there's another one of these guys. Also not worth it in my opinion. There are 2 more off the top of my head that I know of. There are 2 more in Skidoo Altus. There's one here, also not worth it. And there's one above this church, like right here roughly, also not worth it. Although if you go through Bonnie Village and up here, there's one right here, and that one is worth it. I will get that one when we go there. And I'll show why it's worth it. But the ones that aren't worth it, I don't pick those up because that clutters this, and I don't want that. I wish that there was some way to favorite things. So let's say that you picked up the thing for Festive Grease, but you don't like Festive Grease, but you like the other greases, I would like a way for you to either hide, like press a button to hide the festive grease, or press a button to favorite the others, and then be able to go into a favorite menu. Kind of the same way that you have this, which shows all of them, but then you also have a favorite menu. I wish that there was some way to do that with item crafting, so that way you aren't punished for picking up cookbooks that you aren't going to use. But anyways, my suggestions out of the way, we can continue moving on. The ones that I say aren't worth it, most of them are just these. The proof pickled livers. So they give you, like, more fire damage negation, more holy damage negation, more magic damage negation. But the one that I said is worth it and that I'll pick up, it's a better version of this. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of consumables, especially these ones, but stamina recovery speed is the best of those. Did you see that? And as you can see there, shot them with Great Glintstone Shard while they were in the air and they fell down. So, I don't remember if it was the initial run or the second run, but in one of the first two runs, I died here, whereas this run with the magic didn't take a single point of damage. So, as I said, if something is hard on a melee run, it's easy on a magic run. If it's easy on a melee run, it's hard on a magic run. Not always, but typically speaking. But yeah, they took like 800 damage, but their health bar didn't go down at all. And that was a bit strange. We're gonna ignore it though. Yeah, if you don't want to break the spell, just don't get too close to Shadowkeep here. And you can go to Bonnie Village, but don't go east of Bonnie Village. Like, don't cross this bridge, basically. Because if you start going up this path, it breaks, and if you get too close to the entrance, it breaks. Like, here is the broken furnace visage with the basic foot soldiers that can drop the item. The furnace visage. This thing, yeah. That's right. The enemies are furnace golems. So, this is where the broken furnace golem is. With the basic foot soldiers that can drop the furnace visages. But if you go to that, it breaks. So, do keep that in mind. Right, so if that thing can see us, we're too close. But yes, this is where we want to be. It's a bit dark. So, couldn't see. But here, Pearl Shield Talisman. Now, I don't know if this will work, because I've never personally tried it. However, there's a talisman, I don't think I have it on me right now, but there's a talisman that boosts guarding ability, and then there's Pearl Shield Talisman, which boosts all non-physical damage negation. So it boosts your magic, fire, lightning, and holy damage negations. So if an enemy is using any of those damage types, and you shield, you'll take less damage. And again, I have not personally tried this, so I don't know how well it would work. But those two talismans, plus Two-Headed Turtle Talisman, plus the Dueling Shield, I'm not saying it'll work, because I haven't tried it. I'm saying that it is an idea, and that ideas are fun to try. And that's definitely an idea I'm going to try at some point. Not right now, but I might make that a run. How I'll manage that, considering how late into the game you get it, not entirely sure, but it's gotta be worth a try, right? It's gotta be worth a try. So that'll be a 2-shot. That's not good, but it is good to know. And ooh. Now, I said that I've looked some things up. One of the things I looked up was some of the weapons. And something a bit strange and very tragic is the Blood Fiend's Sacred Spear. Along with... Oh, do I not have it? Huh. Well, Blood Fiend's Sacred Spear, the Great Spear, and Blood Fiend's Blood Arm. Or arm. The big club thing that one is wielding. It is a colossal weapon. And something about them is you can only get one of each. You get the arm here, northwest of Ancient Ruins base, and you get Blood Fiend's arm near the top of Prospect Town. And you can only get one, you can't grind them. And you might think, well, what's weird about that? And the weird thing about that is because there's actually 3 Blood Fiend weapons. You see, there's the Colossal Weapon, there's the Great Spear, but there's also a normal spear. Now, the thing about the normal spear is you can grind it. You can get an infinite amount. But the Great Spear and the Colossal Weapons are both one of a kind. Do you see why I find that weird? Like, why is one of them an infinite grind where you can get as many as you want, but the other two are both one of a kind? Why aren't they just consistent? That's something I find weird. But anyways, I think we can end it here. We're 55 minutes in. So we started at High Road Cross, we talked to Letta and Hornsent. We made our way down into Fogrift Fort and took out the boss there. We headed south and east, made it to Morth Ruins, the Fort of Reprimand. We got a Miquela's Cross that the characters don't know about. And off the top of my head, I can only think of one more that we need to get in order to get the special dialogue. And we'll get that probably in the next part. But we also went to Ancient Ruins base, and we cleared out the top section of that. For items, we have gotten ourselves the Serpent Flail, we got the Black Steel Great Shield, Arrow's Soaring Sting Talisman, we got Dryleaf Arts with the Palm Blast Ash of War, we got Dane's Hat, the ability to craft Mesmer Fire Grease, we got the Repeating Crossbow, one of the best crossbows in the game, if I remember correctly. We also got the Flame Drake Talisman +3 for the utmost amount of fire damage reduction. We got an Iris of Occultation. I'll show where both Irises of Occultation and both Irises of Grace are, because there's two of each. We got America's Rune. We got Ash of War Aspects of the Crucible Wings. We got some more upgrade materials, like Skidoo Tree Fragments and Revered Spirit Ashes. We got the Gravebird Anklets. We got the Pearl Shield Talisman. And the Blood Fiend's Sacred Spear. So, pretty good progress today. I'm happy with that, and, yeah.